everyone, and welcome back to What a Barb, a Polin podcast. I'm Ovs. I've got everyone with me for a change. Welcome. We've just had a 5-minute conversation off mic about peas and carrots. So that's the urgency with which we're bringing you today's episode. That's the top of our list is Americans, what vegetable do you have with your dino nuggets?
Yeah, let us know in the episode response on Spotify. What do you have if you're having nuggets and chips? What vegetable?
Yeah, let us know in the comments. We've given up on Polin. We're moving on to dino nuggets.
Hello, Barbkin. After editing this episode, we thought it would be worthwhile to include a little warning/apology in advance to remind all of you listeners, if you have not been able to discern this before now, we are massive fans of Polin, and that we, like many Polin fans, have a slightly dark sense of humor and occasionally use that as a coping mechanism. So that said, we do poke fun at Penelope and, of course, Colin in this episode, but we do love them.
It's been a week. We're recording Tuesday night. Who knows when you'll hear these words, but we didn't know that we'd be hopping on. But here we are, living in the aftermath of a little cheeky thing called the Part 2 trailer. Yep. First of all, how are we? Quick whip around the room. Speak with haste. We've got a lot to get through. Veg, how are you doing?
I'm okay, thank you. I just moved house and it's not to the place I'm buying. So it's to a different flat.
Yeah.
And I'm struggling along on Wi-Fi. Other news, I am obsessed with the song My Days from The Notebook, the musical. There you go.
I've not listened to the Notebook musical yet, but I need to.
Nor have I, just that song 300 times.
On my to-do list. Beans, you're in your car. Yeah. How are you in your car doing?
Well, I have been watching a lot of very depressing documentaries.
For a change.
Par for the course.
Get you into the right mindset for today, babe. Lucky Merrick, how are you doing?
Meh.
A resounding meh.
How are you, Orbs?
Just thrilled to be alive, as always.
You're very sun-kissed.
I am.
You've got, like, rosy cheeks. You've been sat out.
It wasn't even sunny today. I'm very pale. So what can you do? Well, hello, everyone. Did you expect us to have a little trailer dropping? I was hoping that teaser trailer was the trailer. I was like, please don't give us anything else.
I was surprised by how much it gave away.
Yeah.
Because I felt like the teaser trailer that we had at the end of the first part
was fine.
Hinted it hinted at some of the storylines without going too far. But oh my word. And that's the thing about this trailer is it's not the same as the Part 1 trailer where we didn't know anything really at that point. We had a couple of clips. We didn't know the tone. We didn't really know like the balls and everything. Whereas at this point, I think we have a bit of an idea as to what it looks like.
Some of the balls we're going to see.
Some of the balls we're going to go to. So it's weird because like some of it is very recognisable and then some of it has really thrown us.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to tell my head from my bum hole the past few days with all the moving. So I've watched it maybe twice max, so will not be contributing much to this discussion, but I'm happy to be here.
Well, it only dropped yesterday, to be fair, so we're all still sort of gathering our thoughts. Lecky, we covered episode 5 and 6 in our last... Was that our last episode? In our last episode. Mm-hmm. So a few of those scenes come back in this trailer, so we'll just touch on them very, very briefly. I do want to say we have to make a quick apology to none other than the Queen of England. Because, Lecky, apparently, me and you being completely sleep deprived is a terrible combination.
Oh, yes.
Because we fucked up last episode.
Thank you to everybody who reminded us of our mistake last episode. There have been many of you, but that's completely fine. We mixed up the blackmail amount and the bounty amount from the book. My apologies.
I would personally like to apologise to the Queen of England for assuming she has no money.
Yeah.
Terrible of me. But shall we just get straight in? Because I think there's quite a lot to cover, quite a lot of interesting topics, and possibly the most heartbreaking thing my poor little eyes have ever had to witness, which we will get to. But we're going to try and assemble it very vaguely chronologically. Obviously, we don't know actually how chronological this is, but just to put it into some kind of rough order. So shall we start very briefly, because we have touched on it before and we have seen it before in the teaser trailer, but episode 5 TikTok, the post-carriage scene. This is picking up where part 1 left off, with Colin proposing to Penelope, and from the trailer we see that he walks them into Bridgerton house. Violet, Fran and Hyacinth are there in the drawing room up late, and we have the moment of their reactions. He doesn't even really have to say anything. He just appears with pen. And I love that Violet looks straight at Colin because she kind of like sent him on his way, really, by prompting him earlier into action. And then Hyacinth and Fran both immediately look at Penelope and they just have the best expressions on their faces. And Colin says, mother, and Violet says, oh, I am delighted for you both. So, so sweet. Also, did you notice the little Greg is up and about?
Yeah.
But Pen is obviously not doing too well. There's a really sweet moment where Violet hugs her, and it's so bittersweet because like this is a family she's wanted to be part of for her whole life.
Yeah.
With the boy she's wanted to be with her whole life. And she's finally there, and she is almost paralyzed by not really knowing what to do with it all.
She closes her eyes, right? She like closes her eyes and looks like she's gonna cry.
She looks miserable for an engaged woman. Poor Pen.
She has had quite a busy day, but then Eloise pops up, magic time traveling. I don't really know how she got to Bridgerton House before the others did.
It doesn't make sense.
But we're going to go with it.
Yeah, it does not make sense.
But people have been posting questions about timelines on the subreddit.
And people have been messaging us too.
Yeah, it's like, just don't worry
go
about
with
it,
it,
babe.
yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Daphne's baby, the season 2 epilogue, Violet's age, some things just disappear into the abyss of mystery.
The beginning of the Lady Whistledown voiceover in the trailer is something like, an announcement came with great speed, and like, so did other things.
Yes.
First of all, Colin's family, and also Penelope herself, potentially, in the carriage, so.
Yeah, Eloise, Lecky and Merrick. You know what? She has had a fucking busy day, and he's just immediately pulling her. I mean, I'd need a few minutes to gather my thoughts if I was Pen. And she's immediately like, here's my mother, Pen.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh my God, we've just, the things that carriage has seen out front. And also, I guess they're just waiting and catching their breaths outside the carriage and the footmen.
Yeah, it's the Featherington footmen just hanging out in front of the Bridgerton house for now.
Just a complete reversal of the books, obviously, where they go to the Featherington house. But during this moment, Eloise pulls Pen into the hallway and she says, you've not told him that you're Whistledown. And Pen says, Eloise, please do not tell him. And Elle is really distressed. And she's like, he will find out.
Dun, dun,
and
dun.
this, my friends, is the beginning of Pen refusing to tell Colin the truth. We'll discuss this much more in this episode, I'm sure. But
Yeah.
how are we all doing with that little revelation?
That's disappointing.
Yeah. I did think that it would make sense for Colin to figure it out. I just wish he wasn't quite under these circumstances where she's lying to him.
And like, that's interesting because I'm going to come to you in a little bit because I think we've had many theories over the 2 years that we've been in the fandom and the year that we've done the podcast. We've never really believed that Pen, that A, it would get this far.
Yeah, we're Pen apologists.
And that B, Pen would just ultimately lie to him. So that never came up in our theories purely because we didn't think that she'd do that. But, you know, we're at where we're at. But Lecky, you've always had, and as I say, we're going to come back to this as we go through the scenes because I think it's laced throughout the trailer quite well. You've always really wanted Colin to figure it out for himself.
Yeah, he's clever.
Yeah.
Has always been something that you've said because he is clever.
And perceptive, yeah.
Yeah, and there were moments in season 2.
And Penelope's not doing a good job hiding it, apparently.
Yeah.
There's your little consolation prize, Lecky. It looks like he might be figuring it out. But there we go, setting the scene straight away. Eloise pleading, really, for her to tell him, and Pen straight up asking Elle don't tell him, which puts her in such a horrible place because now she's complicit in lying to her brother.
Yeah.
And that's such an awful position to put her in. But we have no time to react because, as Whistledown said, the announcement came with great speed. And how did everyone find out about it? Well, it turns out that the Featheringtons and Benedict, it seems, all learn of the engagement, presumably the next morning through Lady Whistledown.
Amazing.
Speaking of great speed, that means that Penelope had to like hustle over to the printers to get that issue in as well.
I know.
God.
As I say, we've been thinking about Colin piecing it together, and this has been laced this season way back during their kiss when she was like,
Suspicious.
it would have been suspicious had Whistledown not written about it. And he did clock it. But yeah, I don't know if that would be a tiny, tiny part of the puzzle that he looks back retrospectively and he's like, I pulled up at Bridgerton House really, really late on, impulsively asked Penelope to marry me. No one knew that I was going to do that. We told a few members of our family, and then somehow by morning, it's out in the ton. Like, maybe he thinks the maids are involved with the Whistledown or the carriage drivers.
It's also...
One of our listeners said, yeah, the footmen, because obviously the walls of the carriage were very thin.
They heard.
Because she spoke to them.
And Colin's walking around like, this fucking footmen are going to ruin their lives.
Yeah.
But it is a little piece of the puzzle.
Why did she post it? Why would she need to be the one to like break the breaking news? Because by that point, she's already like, oh shit, I'm Lady Whistledown. I better not be.
She can't resist. She always has been a little bit arrogant with it.
Yeah.
I have a theory.
Beans, bring us a theory.
So this is the same night we forget that Debling basically rejected proposing to her and rejected her in front of everyone. And so in a sense, if that just played out, people would be talking about how Penelope has been like rejected by Debling, and it would become distract people from that.
Yeah. She's trying to control the narrative a little bit.
Yep.
Oh, she's never done that.
And also it'll protect Colin too, because people will talk about him disrupting
Yeah,
their
scandalizing.
dance. Yeah, so it'll be a way to take off some of that heat from both of them.
That's a really great point.
Yeah, it's a good point. Framing the narrative, because it's going to get out that day anyway. People will find out, so it's better to get ahead of the game. I also think maybe she just can't quite help herself. I think she's a bit caught up in the fact that, understandably, that, you know, she's with the love of her life who's confessed that he wants to be with her.
Yeah.
I always thought either she was going to reject him or break off the proposal, and we've got neither. So all we've got left is the joyous news that they're going to be married. So how lovely. Also, just love that shot of Ben and Tilly. Tilly in this trailer is a whole vibe. She's having the greatest time. There's a shot of her at the engagement ball and she's just living.
Does she know who Penn is?
I don't think she gives a shit. I think she's just there for a good time, not a long time. But I just love that shot of Ben, just so shocked. And of course, over at the Featheringtons, our hero, Mr. Finch, as he reads the whistle down, he is fucking thrilled with the news.
Love him.
Yeah.
I told one of our listeners he might be like the best Regency hero of all time. Like, unexpected
I know.
hero, Mr. Finch.
Honestly, I don't think we've covered it on the pod, but it was said in an interview with Harriet Keynes that, do you know the whole joke about, oh, they haven't actually properly slept together, Philippa and Finch? Well, Lorne MacDonald, who plays Finch, has a theory that Finch knows exactly what to do, but he was waiting for Philippa to consent fully to the situation.
Love him.
Could we fucking love him anymore? Hero of the season.
No wonder she looks so hot this season, because if I had a husband like that, I would be glowing non-stop.
He is everything.
Editor's note, since we're on the topic of Mr. Finch, I felt compelled to share another little Finch fact. There's this little moment in episode 4 with Albion that I just love. But before they arrive at the Fuller house, we see Philippa and Prudence spying on Penelope when she's being called upon by Lord Debling. And before they actually start spying on her, Philippa basically says that she was up late with morning sickness because she didn't feel well. And then when they cut to the Fuller library, we see her walking in with Finch and he's yawning, which implies that he was up all night with her when she didn't feel well. It's very sweet.
So he's having a great time. Prue and Philippa spit out their drinks. Portia looks none too pleased. I mean, the way that Portia's thinking, she's probably thinking, you're going to get with a lord that was going to sort us all out for the rest of their lives, and now you're with the guy across the road. Yeah. Which, I mean, he's still fucking loaded, Portia. Let's not, let's not pretend.
Well, not just that, with the whole thing with Marina too, she's going to be like, he's wafty.
Yeah, messy.
Yeah.
But no time to dwell, because guess who's back in town? Our lovely Cantony are home at last. Lecky and we talked about this last week. Lecky, do you want to share the great news with the others?
Well, I think they're pregnant.
Is this confirmed?
Yeah, it definitely looks like they are.
Okay.
When they come back, they have his hand on her stomach in the teaser.
Oh,
So I think they're pregnant.
that's exciting.
If you look, it really does look like it. And as we saw in the teaser, they announced that Penn and Colin are engaged. And it's really sweet because Anthony looks so proud of Colin, which is all Colin's really wanted if you trace that back to season 1. He's always really valued his brother's approval. And Benedict and Anthony have a scene with Colin where they sort of have like a very gentle interrogation in the study. Anthony says congratulations, but you must admit it's all rather sudden. Colin, picking up on the theme of speed that we've seen. Interesting, isn't it? Because time keeps coming up in the themes of clocks and timing and deadlines, and the idea that what Whistledown says is announcement came with great speed, and Colin alludes the time here. Yes, it has been sudden, but he says, I've known her a very long time, but perhaps it did all happen rather swiftly. Anthony says, swift because you've... And then Ben cuts him off. Are you going to duel with your own brother?
Obsessed.
I really, really missed Anthony in part 1 because these like the scenes I absolutely love.
Yeah.
Like the little sibling moments.
And when we were doing our rewatch, we talked about that didn't we?
Yeah.
It's also that moment that we were kind of hoping for where we said, like, if Anthony says, like, did you compromise the girl? And instead of being like, certainly not, Colin's like, yes, I did. Mm-hmm. And we're getting that. So that's very exciting.
He's like so unrepentantly happy about it. He is like, I fucking compromised her well, truly and fully.
Editor's note, although this was under slightly different circumstances, for those who have listened to our rewatch episodes, Beans hilariously speculated that Anthony might question Colin about his engagement in the same manner, and she predicted that Colin would respond by saying that the engagement was rather swift, so Prophet Beans strikes again.
And it's alluding to the idea that, yes, it is very quick, but he loses the history that they have together. And it's very book Polin, because it's exactly the same way. It took them a really long time to get to that point, but then when Colin realizes, it takes him almost no time at all to have that flip, which we saw in part 1. I don't think we ever thought that Colin would realize his love so quickly. We thought he'd maybe grapple with it, but he was pretty much there by episode 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm glad they scrapped that aspect of the books of him trying to
figure out if it was love or not.
Mm-hmm. Waffling.
Yeah.
We would also like to point out that in this scene, Colin is wearing what we like to call Balloon Colin's waistcoat, the very nice parody one that you can see him wearing in episode 3. Some fans have speculated that Colin reverts to his pirate look in episode 3 because of the distance between him and Penelope, and that by shedding the coat, he is getting rid of the distance between them or expressing that he no longer wants that distance to be there. If that is the case, I like that he's kept this tiny bit of his swaggery pirate side after getting together with Penelope. Maybe he just needed Pen for the swagger to become real. Also, he's so proud in this scene, and it feels a bit like an echo of the hollow pride that he felt after saving Pen from the balloon in episode 3, where he still was not really able to reach out to her.
But then we're going to take a little trip over to, well, we think it's Bloomsbury. We don't actually have this confirmed, but we feel like it's Bloomsbury, right, Lek? We talked about this last episode.
Yeah, I think it's Bloomsbury.
So, Beans, how do you feel about us possibly having Bloomsbury, a little place for Pen and Colin to live?
Very cute.
Sure, that's great. That's fine.
That's pretty much it. I approve. It's good that it's not Violet's sofa that they'll be defiling, presumably.
So we head over to Bloomsbury for what appears to be a little mirror sequence. And now I think this has been confirmed that the mirror is Ep 5, so he wastes no fucking time. He's got his girl, and he's taking her over to their new place with all the dust sheets up, and they're getting straight to it.
Yeah. Do we think it's going to be maybe a, like, Lady Whistledown related moment? Like, will that be built into it?
Well, no, because he's definitely not going to know at this point.
No, exactly. But we've had the mirrors representing the dual aspects of Pen's personality throughout the 2 previous seasons. So potentially they could play on that a little bit here.
I think that may be part of it, but also it's just like a vulnerability. It's like you're seeing yourself and sort of having this like self-acceptance as well.
Yeah, Penelope's seeing herself through his eyes. Do you think it's not really going to be a moment that's influenced by
the symbolism of it all?
Yeah. Or the symbolism reflects something different. It reflects Colin guiding Pen to see her through his eyes.
Yeah.
As I say, we talked about the mirror a little bit more last episode, and something else we talked about a little bit more last episode was the engagement party. So this, obviously, the famous engagement party where Pen collapses rather dramatically as the pressure becomes a little bit too much for her. What a shame, Pen. But we do have a couple of new little moments from the engagement party scattered in the trailer, and we have the toasts from a lot of fucking toasts. Let the catch and toast go round. We've got Colin having a moment, Portia and Eloise. So Portia says to the match of the season. So is she on board now? Is she happy with it?
In the teaser trailer, though, there was that moment where she had like her hands on her hips.
Do you think she's maybe being sarcastic then?
I don't know. I think she's just being Portia, where she's like
a little bit begrudging.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Hips don't lie, Lecky.
Because as we're going to see in a little bit, she has mixed emotions about the whole thing.
Yeah, but I also feel like Portia's going to have a nap, wake up and be like, oh, okay, this is what I like.
I'm going to be related to the Bridgertons.
Yeah.
Also, they're in society in this moment. A very small gathering, but they're in society, and it's that sort of putting on appearances. She might privately be telling Pen one thing, but in public she's going along with it because ultimately it does look good. As we see later on in the promenade, she describes it as our nuptials. I'm like, are you getting married, Portia, in this?
Yeah, she obviously gets into it at some point.
Yeah, she says, during the promenade, she says, I want every eye in the ton focus on our upcoming nuptials.
Yeah, I clocked that.
So, never want to miss an opportunity. And then a savage line from Eloise, who it looks like is either interrupting a toast or making her own toast. And she says, here is to truly knowing each other completely. She cannot resist.
Colin obviously clocks that. I guess it's so overt.
Yeah. Do you think he does clock it? Because it is cut with that moment of Colin quickly turning to the side. And I think that's where Eloise is standing. So do you think that's another part of the puzzle for Colin?
Yeah, definitely.
Slightly slotting into place.
Yep.
Because it's so laden and dripping with sarcasm and really forcing Penn into that, or trying to. And Eloise says during that evening, if it's too difficult for you to reveal the truth, I will reveal it to him myself, which kicks off the part of episode 5, which is this sort of deadline to midnight that we see. And Penn clearly not coping with the deadline. She's really panicked. Colin says, Penn, is everything all right? She's sort of racing down the hallways and hiding herself away. Do you think she has... Like, we touched on this last time. I want to know if your opinions have changed, and I want to know what the other opinions of these two are, because we wondered if the climax of episode 5 would be obviously the approach of midnight, that we think is going to end with the crescendo of Cressida either declaring or about to declare that she's Whistledown, or that she knows who Whistledown is, making that big announcement that we've seen before. Do you think Penn, because Penn in that moment is holding on to Colin, or she's really close to Colin as that moment happens and as their attention's diverted towards Cressida, do you think Penn is going to tell Colin in that moment? Or is she sticking with it and still refusing, as she does throughout the trailer, to tell him?
I still believe that she planned to tell him, and then Cressida intervened, and then that kind of sets in motion more reasons for her not to tell him, I think.
Yeah. That's a good point, because like grappling with not telling him before the sort of Whistledown gets really, really complicated is one thing. It's like one thing for Eloise to be like, you need to tell him the truth of who you are, but then for it to have that extra complication of now Cressida is involved, Queen, and then the Queen's going to get involved. More layers for her not to tell him. The thing about the trailer, I think it's cut deliberately to maybe not show Penn in a best light.
Yeah.
I think there's a few moments that are sort of spliced together that make it sound like her motivations for... I'm throwing a girl a bone here, like, is what I'm doing.
Yeah, let's hope that it's better than it seems in the trailer, and they're just like preparing us.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, for example, there's one point where I think 2 moments are spliced together where very close together, Penn says, Colin cannot discover my secret, Whistledown is power.
Yeah, obviously 2 different scenes.
And the way that splice makes it sound as if she's like, I can't tell Colin because this is my power and I'm not like... Yeah, and like you say, like, those are 2 separate conversations and 2 separate scenes that are sort of portraying her motivations in a deliberately provocative way.
Yeah, exactly.
I wonder if that's what Genevieve...
I feel like the first one might be like an episode 5 moment where she's explaining why she can't tell Colin.
Yeah.
And then the Whistledown is power one, I feel like, is in episode 6 moment.
At the floral ball.
Once all those other conflicts come in with the Queen and Cressida. Maybe more Cressida.
Yeah.
Because, you know, Whistledown is her power. She doesn't want Cressida to claim credit for that.
Yeah.
So 2 different moments that they're spliced together. So I think...
She's getting the villain edit on Love Island.
I mean, I didn't know that Penn was going to be getting the villain edit in her own season. But you know... We've said it before, we support women's rights, we support women's rights.
I'll still support her, why not?
Why not? She's our anti-hero after all. But yeah, I think it's important to remember that the way it's edited as well is deliberately provocative and maybe misleading in a few ways. But Lecky, like you say, do you think that there's this moment where Eloise makes a really innuendo-laden, not that kind of innuendo, but you know what I mean, a very obvious call out to Penn, and do you think Colin's going to clock that?
At the engagement party? Yes. Yeah.
But how sweet, you know, on the bright side of life, it looks like, do you remember back in the day, we'd be like, episode 8 is going to have to make an assuredly, fervently, loudly discussion off the table. He's just going to be saying it every 5 fucking minutes, apparently. He can have a little moment here, can have a little moment there. Looks like he's going to do a beautiful speech. What more could you want? Colin, my wife, Bridgerton, welcome home.
Maybe it'll be a Penelope moment at the end of the season after she's done all of this to him.
What, she decides to tell the truth?
No.
Oh, Pen, we're sorry, we love you, but you do make it difficult.
Where she gives the assuredly, fervently, loudly moment, because she always says that you should declare your love that way. And we have the moment in the church here in the trailer, but that's not quite an assuredly, fervently, loudly.
It's not public, is it? And it's also not truthful.
That's
sorry, Pen. We're processing, Pen. We're just taking it out on you, babe. We're still in the trenches every fucking day for you. You know, we're just getting our heads around it. It's all good fun.
Maybe Finch will get the assuredly, fervently, loudly moment to Philippa to celebrate the birth of their child in episode 8.
Imagine Finch as a girl dad. How amazing.
He's a girl dad 100%.
I think I've shared this once on Reddit. There was this amazing drabble on Twitter about Finch and Philippa and how their first child was a daughter and they named her Daisy because when he first calls on her, he brings her daisies even though he's allergic to them. And he says, "This is the first daisy that hasn't troubled my nose, but you seem to be troubling my eyes," because he cries when he sees his infant daughter Daisy for the first time.
Stop. Stop.
So all those people who have headcanons about naming their children after cheese.
Brie.
I also have a soft spot in my heart about Daisy just from that drabble. Props to whoever wrote that. I'll try to track it down and include it in our show notes.
Daisy or Brie? Can you just say that sentence again? Because we completely lost you.
I didn't say anything.
Oh. It must have just put you into slow-mo for a really long time.
I went, oh.
Okay.
Oh. To us, you went,
It sounded like you were saying something like genuinely groundbreaking.
Yeah.
I can tell you something interesting that I just
Go
thought
for
about.
it.
Great.
Go for it.
The other day, I drove through this park to get back home, and I saw 3 porta potties on their side, and I thought, that's a bad omen.
Was this prior to the trailer or after the trailer?
That's prior to the trailer.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Beans, our listeners know you as Prophet of Doom Beans. Could you, in your wildest fantasies, have ever thought it was going to go like this?
Yes.
Because she's the prophet. Yeah.
Maximum drama. We were all like, Penn, she never would lie to him.
Well, no. I was telling y'all, I said, there's going to be some shit that's pulled at episode 6. It always happens.
Yeah.
And here we are.
And that leads us perfectly because if we assume, honestly, we don't know, if we assume that episode 5 ends with Penn collapsing to the ground, maybe she is faking. I wouldn't put it past her at this point.
That stance.
Of Colin leaning over her.
I have talked about this. That stance that Colin has, I had to edit it out of the collage because I couldn't stop laughing. It's
Yeah, we had to.
awkward.
So let's say that episode 5 does end with Penn collapsing, etc., etc. This is the next scene we're going to discuss. Maybe it would work quite well because maybe it's sort of the next morning or like the next day after she's like recovered, is the scene where Colin goes to Penn's house to give her a little ring to seal the deal properly because, you know, I assume he's been quite busy. He certainly didn't have a ring on him when he proposed originally. I mean, he had his ring on him. Definitely wouldn't fit Penn. But he's over to make a little delivery of the ring. Aww. And it looks like they're on the sofa together and they have a very interesting interaction. Lecky, what on earth is going on?
Like in the book, he notices some ink stains on her fingers. Unlike the book, it's not Eloise whose ink stains he's noticing, it's Penelope's.
So, you know, we appreciate the nod to the books. We appreciate it.
I just want to say it's so nice to have a little, like, I know that it's going to be completely fraught and not fun at all, but the first 2 seasons, we didn't get to enjoy any engagement.
Enjoy.
Yeah.
Like the ring giving, they did with Edwina, but like, you know, it's nice that we get them going through the motions as she's trying on dresses.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. We get these emotional beats. This is the thing, right? Because this is what we've been told about the season. It's so romantic and there are so many moments where we see Polin in love. And it's like, if you look at it from a distance, right, it's like, oh my God, they have an engagement party? Are you joking me? He gives her a ring? Are you joking me? We have her in a wedding dress? Are you joking? And then it's like, when you look closer, it's almost, you know, like when like you're in a shop and you see like the most amazing offer. And then you look at the tiny fine print and it's like, this product will completely fucking ruin your life. And it's like, you don't see it until you've bought it. I feel like when you look at the fine print of season 3, it's like,
It may cause diarrhea.
also, she's going to fucking lie to him consistently. So every happy moment is undercut with this knowledge that it's all built on a lie.
Colin will end up sleeping on the couch.
Don't let.
Sorry.
I am so distressed beyond words at that visual. Never did I thought I'd see that. We'll get to him. We'll get to him. But Lecky, like you say, as Colin goes to give Penn the ring, she has ink stains all over her. So if you've seen the recent stills that have been released, and I think it might have been in the teaser trailer as well, we did see that Penelope in the same dress was up in her bedroom writing a whistle down. So if we say that Cressida has declared that she's Lady Whistledown the night before. Maybe Pen is straight up in bed, recovering from a little fainting spell, immediately writing her rebuttal. And Colin calls on her suddenly. She doesn't have a chance to wash her hands.
Editor's note, I just wanted to include a little hat tip to one of our listeners who recently sent us a picture of her ink-stained fingers with the phrase, manifesting a visit from Colin. Let us know how that works out for you.
She goes downstairs to see him, and that's the setup for when he's like, why the fuck? Well, okay, he doesn't say that. I'll say it in the Regency language. He says, what is all this ink? Have you been writing? And what answer does she give him? Like, Pen, babe, if you're gonna build your entire life on a lie, we're gonna have some better answers on hand. What does she tell him?
I've been writing letters to people.
She says, oh yes, letters. So this, I was going to call her a clown. This Pen.
Hi.
This Pen. You could call her a pathological liar. As I'm going to say, we love her so much. We're just processing.
Yeah. No, I'm processed. I don't care. Pen can do no wrong. Men are trash.
I'm a pathological liar. Lecky, me and Lecky live double lives. We don't tell anyone about this fucking podcast. So to be fair.
That's true.
To be fair, we're just as bad as she is. So Pen, to Colin, she comes up with the excuse that she's been writing letters to someone. First of all, what a fucking insult to Colin. He's like, oh, so you do know how to write letters.
So you can keep up a correspondence with somebody.
There I was thinking you'd completely fucking forgotten how to do it.
I respect it. I really respect that she's not letting something as silly and trivial as an engagement stand in the way of her making Colin jealous. Good for you.
It's a good point, right? Because surely the only people that Pen know that aren't in London is Marina and Philip.
And maybe Deblane, if he's left, depending on
Can you imagine?
whether he's left town or not.
Did you see the post that's like, no, Deblane would have died. No one made that voyage successfully.
Yeah, we talked about it. Also, did you see the news that the Great Orc went extinct?
Rest in peace.
Firstly, it was a penguin, so there were penguins involved. I still don't know which pole he was going to.
Oh, please.
Maybe the Great Orcs were in the... I don't know.
He didn't make it to save them.
But yeah, he would have died, and
sadly,
the Great Orc went extinct. So really, what did he do?
He didn't make it.
A fool's errand. Yeah.
Because Deblane wouldn't have let down the Great Orc. So he must have just died.
Also, speaking of birds, this has nothing to do with the episode, but we're recording on the day that the behind the scenes released of the giant swan at the Balloon Fair.
Oh, yeah.
We're thrilled. Lecky, you've gone on a deep dive.
I did. My big point was that Penelope's struggling to find something to talk to Deblane about. He loves birds. There's a giant fucking swan in her eyesight right behind him, but she tries to talk about grass.
That's where we thought that the swan was like representing Pen and Colin and Colin not being... No. So back to the letters. So Colin asks if she's been writing and she says it's letters, so she's just lying to him. And there's another moment in the trailer where, in a voiceover, so we don't know where it belongs, but we'll add it here because it sort of thematically resonates here. He says to her, is there some secret you are not telling me? So he knows that something is going on. Do you think this moment of him seeing her fingers covered in ink is going to lace together with all of these other moments that we're going to touch on where he is piecing it together?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
So there we go. Penelope literally just being asked directly, and she directly lies to him. Do you think that's going to have a deeper effect from him? Because what we've always said with Pen and the Whistledown thing is it's always been different to Eloise, because with Eloise, like, she was always directly lying to Eloise. Whereas with Colin, it's like he never technically asked or suspected her. It wasn't his secret to know, you could have argued. But in a moment like this where he's directly saying what's going on and she lies to him or withholds it from him, do you think that's going to add to him being upset?
Yes, unless that's also like spliced dialogue.
Yeah, very true.
Maybe he doesn't ask her directly.
Like a writer's thing that's often used is just there's never a good moment or whatever. And we said, like, that's still not a great excuse, but, at least we've got that excuse. But if he just asks her and they're sat down
in an empty room,
nothing to do, they've got a free day ahead of them.
Like... She's got ink all over her face at that point, all over her shoulders.
No. He's like, are you sure? She's like, can't think of anything. He's like, are you triple? No, just, I mean, technically, you could argue that, she says, dearest gentle reader, it is technically a letter to the Ton. She's not lying, if you want to look at it that way. But the puzzle pieces are falling into place for Colin, tragically. what we're going to do now, throughout the entire trailer, there are these little moments between Portia and Penn that were scattered throughout. We're going to collect them all together and talk about them in one, because it's kind of harder to place exactly where these moments are falling. But I think looking at the moments between Portia and Penn are actually really interesting into understanding some of Penelope's mindset when it comes to not telling Colin.
Yeah.
And maybe one of the reasons why she can't tell him. And so throughout the trailer, we see Penn and Portia talking, and Portia says to her, your duty is to cater to Mr. Bridgerton's dreams. Again, that dream language coming through. And Penn says, what about my dreams? And Portia says, ladies do not have dreams, they have husbands. I think we did know about this line actually from promo.
We did, yeah.
But seeing it in context, how are you feeling? It's gutting, right?
Yeah, and I feel like I understand why this pushes Penelope to kind of double down and not let Cressida steal the credit for Lady Whistledown.
Yeah.
And it just kind of contrasts with the purposing. We know that she does have these dreams.
Yeah.
And she never imagined she was going to have Colin anyway.
That's a good point, like, that you're making about Whistledown, is that, for a start, I'll say that from Portia's perspective, I don't think Portia's saying this to be vindictive. That's Portia's truth of the life she's lived. She hasn't lived an easy life. That's the experience that she's had to go through. And she's trying to prepare her daughter for the life that Portia knows of, even though we know that that's not what Colin would give to Penn. But like you say, she isn't doing it out of arrogance. She isn't motivated by money. She isn't motivated by any of those accusations that Eloise sort of accused her of at the end of 208. It's her voice.
Yeah.
It's her identity. It's at a point, bear in mind, at the beginning of the season, she didn't have anything. She didn't have Colin, she didn't have Eloise, she didn't have anything but her own pen and her own voice in a world that ultimately rejected her and cast her to the side. So you can understand that it's not a question of, oh, just give it up, your silly little scandal sheet. It's give up a huge part of who you are, what you can be. It represents that Penn can write her way out of a situation, can write herself a new life when she needs to. So it's definitely not just this sort of theme of she's just lying to him and doesn't want to tell him because she's selfish. It's grappling with, which is what I suppose being in love is, it's having the vulnerability and the trust that you can still be your own person and have your own dreams that coincide with someone else's life and someone else's dreams, and that you can create your own life together.
Yeah.
Which is kind of the theme that we've been told about a lot, is they grow as individuals and then they grow together as well, simultaneously. And that's what Penn needs to learn, right? Is that she doesn't have to sacrifice who she is and what she wants, because Colin is the space that will allow her to have everything she wants.
Yeah.
And we'll come back to that at the end, the question of if we think she's going to give it up or not, because there are a couple of moments in this scattered where a very beautiful Penelope is clearly grappling, going back and forth with whether to give up Whistledown or not. We suspected in our last episode that she will have at least a period of giving up Whistledown, because Cressida, when she's mimicking Lady Whistledown, writes something like, I've been away for a little while, but I'm back now. So she's clearly like not been in action for a little period of time. And we have moments in the trailer of Penelope first uncovering all of her Whistledowns, and then she goes through them, and then it looks like she casts them in the fire. So it looks like she's going to go backwards and forwards throughout the 4 episodes. And that's gutting, isn't it? Because it's like choosing again the theme of follow your heart or your head. But for Penelope, I think this has now become, it's her heart against her heart, because she thinks they two can't coincide together. She thinks she can't have Colin and have her dreams. But that's kind of like gutting, don't you think? Because like obviously Colin would let her have both. And I wonder if that's one of the things he'll be upset about. It's like, why do you think that I would have ever clamped down on you? Maybe not clamped down on you. Maybe that's a different scene.
Well, you also have to think at this point in the story, he isn't quite a fan of Lady Whistledown.
Oh yeah, he fucking hates Whistledown, doesn't he? I'm so tired. I just completely forgot.
I hate that bitch.
I just completely forgot. Yeah, sorry, Penn. I just completely forgot that, yes, Colin has made his mission to fucking ruin Whistledown's life. And so, yeah, fair play. It's like on the way to or from Bloomsbury, he was like, I can't wait till the day someone fucking captures her. Earlier in the season, he was like, going to dance on the day of her demise. Yeah, Penn, fair enough. It is the grappling of, this man loves me, but he's going to hate me. And that's a huge part of motivation.
Oh, dear.
And we always thought that that would make Penn be honest in a way of being like, fine then, we won't be together, I won't pull you into this. Whereas actually how it's manifesting is Penn retreating within herself with her secret and being like, I can't lose you, I can't lose myself, so I'll just try and hide it and kill it. And so do you think she is going to retire and then be provoked back into writing again?
Yeah, I think that she'll try to give it up as an easy solution.
Which is sad in a way, because she doesn't want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then kind of be pulled back in because of her pride a little bit.
Be who you are.
Yeah, because she can't have her bully.
For your pride.
because she can't have her bully taking the credit for everything that she's achieved in life, because she has achieved amazing things through Whistledown. And so, yeah, I think that this to and fro between Pen and Portia, which also was laden in part 1, where Portia was like, you can't have love.
Yeah, she was the catalyst.
What more do you want? And that's what she told her, don't be greedy. And that kind of transposes to part 2, where it's, again, now you're with Colin, but don't be greedy and think that you can have love and your dreams, because that's surely going way, way beyond what you are entitled to as a woman. But Beans, can you give us some little church bells? Not wedding bells just yet, but, you know, generic Sunday church bells.
Bing bong, bing bong, bing bong, bing bong.
That's good. Works for us.
Because
Bong.
we're going to church. Church! We are being taken to church in the end. Who would have thought it? We're finally there. Hosier is thrilled. He's not there, but he'll be thrilled. Because we are in the church. So this is Ep 5 or Ep 6. And yeah, so the mysterious November 2022 veg beans. You remember those set leaks very well. Veg, you were on the ground.
Yeah.
You were in the presence. You didn't see this being filmed, but you were nearby.
Yeah.
You were in the neighbourhood.
I was like watching that clip and imagining us outside.
Like, ooh. And Olaton are filing out of the church, and we have this moment that we described last time as the Berkeley Square scene of the two of them dancing together in the church by themselves. Very, very sweet, very bittersweet. Look, I always said I wanted Berkeley Square to be bittersweet.
Well done.
And I got what I fucking wanted. Yes, thank you. I really brought that one on, didn't I? It's like they can be blissfully happy, engaged. With this horrible secret underneath it. But what we have, guys, finally, for the first time ever, basically, Penelope is going to tell Colin that she has always been in love with him.
And you know what? I am dreading that moment because I do not want this bitch to say. I just spit all over my phone.
She's passionate.
I do not want this bitch to say, I've always known.
Oh, Colin.
I will go through the screen and I will punch him in his keister.
If you haven't listened to our book reread of Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, at which point was a reading of, well, it was sort of a
reenactment.
We gave Beans the wiki notes. Yeah, a reenactment. When Pen told Colin in the books that she'd always loved him, Beans was furious to learn that Colin's reaction was, I know. So are you saying your phone will be going through the screen?
She said she would drop kick him into France or something like that. So.
I'd kick his keister.
Fucking Han Solo ass bitch.
So we have the moment of where Pen finally confesses her love. She says, I have always loved you, Colin. She looks right up at him and he beams down. He is so... Because that's all he wants, isn't it? He just wants to be wanted and needed and loved. And
yeah, and what did he say? Like, what did he say to her that made her reply that? Like, are you sure you want to go through with it or something like that? Sorry, I got overexcited.
Yeah, that's the point. What's the setup for that moment where she's prompted into confessing? Because in the whole history of the show, she's never, ever confessed to anybody. Yeah. It's been told to her, like Marina told her and Debling told her, but she's never told anyone.
Yeah, something needs to prompt that. I wonder what it is.
There's also a voiceover that, again, we don't know exactly where it belongs, but I'm going to collect it up from the trailer and pull it to this moment because it feels most potent here, where Pen says, there is nothing that makes me happier than being with you. I mean, how do you feel?
Sorry, just to revisit, maybe he says something like, are you excited about meeting me back in the church? But, you know.
Yeah, because that's where they're going to get married. We know that. Coming soon in fucking block 4, fucking part 2.
And then she's like, you know, it's all I've ever wanted. I've always loved you, and confesses then, or something like that.
Oh, that would be really sweet.
Maybe she's about to confess she's Whistledown, and then she's like, just remember, I love you.
She looks around. She realizes she's in a church and thinks, maybe here would be a good spot.
Yeah, it's like what would Book Pen do here? Would she be discovered here? Would this a good moment to be discovered? It is like a weird like ghost of the moment in the book where in the book that is where they're discovered, right? In a church. And it's been pointed out that church that they film in is very reminiscent of the inside of St. Bride's or how it was back in the day. So it's like a funny little nod, but what we have here is the Berkeley Square scene where the two of them dance together. Yeah. I wonder if maybe he's like, because he clearly knows that she's not telling him something. Yeah. Do you think she's giving him this as like, he's like, what is it that you need to tell me then?
Oh, no, can we not have her distracting him? Oh,
and she's like,
no, fuck off. I'm turning it
He
off.
senses that she's not telling him something in the church, and she responds by, no, don't want that.
No,
I
we
don't
can't.
want that. I want it to be a romantic moment where he's like,
Yeah.
I'm so excited to meet you down the aisle.
They just get swept up.
You know, are you excited?
Yeah.
And she admits that it's all I've ever wanted.
Nice bit of fan service.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we said it was cinematic to be in a church. It's been a nice scene.
Or maybe it's like a little moment of vulnerability for him, where it's the way that she sort of reassures him that, yes, I want to be with you because I've always loved you.
Maybe.
Sure, that's fine. That's fine, but not related to Lady Whistledown. Please and thank you.
Maybe he'll realize that, you know, he kind of just dragged her into the house without letting her weigh in on the proposal. And he's finally like, do you want
by
this
the
too? just asking.
Can I suggest a song for the Barclay School?
Oh, no.
Go on, because I'm fascinated to know what it's going to be.
Got me saying something disrespectful.
Think you compare to your neighborhood whore.
It's like an Akon song.
As soon as we are already in the church, so we leave the two of them there having this gorgeous moment, very bittersweet moment of the two of them dancing joyously together, which I think, I was just playing devil's advocate, but I do think that
Go away, devil.
what we're going to have is Penn really trying to grapple with the guilt of not telling him, pitted with these really beautiful,
moments.
genuine moments of them together.
Yeah.
Which is so honest and authentic to both of them, but it makes it even worse for her.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe I'll just skip the bad Lady Whistledown scenes like I skipped the brothel.
Oh my God.
Yeah, just like fast forward.
Another great song that I just...
Were you going to sing us a little song?
What's that country song that goes, what hurts the most is being so close.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
That would be a good one.
Chris Bowers, if it's not too late, get in touch. We can do a quick dubbing, a quick edit of it. Time to go to a little ball. Over at the Mondriches, over at the Kent estate, let's hop on over because we've got what I've just decided is called the floral ball. It does what it says on the tin. Loads of bloody flowers. There is a ball, having a great time. So Lek and I, we had a chat about this, but I think we have a few new shots which offer a bit more insight, and we have a really interesting scene between Elle and Penn. And we have a lovely Polin dance with them together. Lecky, you've been a big fan of this little dance.
Yeah, they're adorable. But I was going to say, one of our listeners reached out and said that Queen Charlotte's outfit is almost like the Queen of Hearts at this ball, and she kind of has this sinister presence.
Yeah.
And what stuck out to me is that Polin are dancing literally right under the Queen's nose.
She's on a platform, right?
They're elevated on a platform above them. You could just see her wig behind Penelope and Colin.
And Lecky, we've had a few Polin dances already. We've got a few more coming up. You've noticed in episode 2, he said, we'll dance on the day of her demise.
Yes.
Do you think this is the dance?
I do.
Do you think this is the big foreshadowing dance?
I do think this is the dance. Yeah, I feel like this is sadly this very happy little Polin dance.
Very beautiful.
Is the prelude to the demise of Lady Whistledown that they foreshadowed earlier on in the season.
Also, we don't have tons of time to go into it, but as we know from a recent interview with Jess Brownell, the Lady Danbury Penelope story isn't in the season, or definitely isn't in the season in the way that we thought it would be from what Adjua was saying. So that's something that we've been quite sad about, but don't give up entirely, because if you look when Polin are dancing, if you look really closely, you can see that Lady Danbury is watching them two of them dance and is smiling. So fic writers, off you go. We all need that. You only need the tiniest little spark to get writing, so let the ink flow. But just make sure you wash your hands afterwards. It's good advice for everybody in this one, to be honest.
Even Colin.
Even Colin takes hygiene very seriously.
It's good advice for everyone.
The amount of DMs we've had about the scene of them hugging. Yeah, wash your hands, people.
Wash your hands.
Life advice from Beans. So they are dancing together, and like you pointed this out to me, that they're dancing, and as it's sort of spinning around, you can see a doorway behind them. Who is going to appear through that doorway at one point?
Cressida. In her fabulous, amazing 10 out of 10 villain arc dress that John Glazer teased in that article however long ago. Amazing dress.
This is one where he was like, there's a dress You'll know it when you see it.
Red Vixen.
She is in her absolute prime. And of course, we know from the teaser trailer that this is the ball where the note cards, the dodgy, fraudulent note cards, are brought in on silver platters and shared amongst the ton.
Dearest Angelina.
I love the dodgy wish version of Whistledown that you provided for us last step.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we've had this moment, and there's a really interesting aerial shot of this where Pen and Colin are actually separated from one another in this moment. So they're sort of split up by the crowd as everyone's gathering around the note cards. And then what is particularly interesting is that there's a quick moment of Pen running off quickly. So she's going against the crowd. So it looks like the crowds are rushing towards all the gossip, everything that's happening. And she is rushing away. And this is set with the clip that was in the teaser trailer. Lecky, we talked about this. It's Colin at that ball visibly reacting to something. So last time we theorised that, because obviously the note card says, it's me, Cressida Camper, and she's like having her victory parade. We wondered if maybe Colin in that moment was looking at Eloise and being like, oh, Elle, you best friends Whistledown. Let's have the fucking word about this outside.
Yeah.
Do you have a slightly different opinion now we've seen this clip of Penelope running out?
I think he's looking at Penelope, sadly.
Do you think he's clocking her?
Yeah.
We have said clock a lot in this episode.
He does.
I guess it ties into the TikTok theme.
Tickety tock.
And this is something that we noticed last season. I think we thought at the time that it was maybe going towards more of a misdirect, that he would think it was
Eloise.
Eloise. But I think those puzzle pieces are still in his head of Eloise and Penelope keep secrets.
Yeah.
And that adds the thing of they've had a falling out.
Yep, exactly.
And everything that happened in episode 2, everything that's happened since, the fact that Whistledown wrote about him, it's all building in his head.
Setting up the discovery of Penelope being Lady Whistledown instead of Eloise, as we perhaps suspected.
So just before we get into that a little bit more, we have at the same ball, they're wearing the same outfits, and it looks as if they've like taken each other into a study. We have Eloise and Penelope having a very intense discussion. So Eloise says, until he knows the real you, he cannot possibly love you. And we believe that this is a scene as well where Penelope says Whistledown is power. So it looks like after Cressida's had this big moment in front of everyone claiming Whistledown, that Pen and Eloise hustle off into a side, or maybe Pen runs out and Eloise follows her. Colin clocks it and they have this showdown.
I do find Eloise's statement interesting.
Yeah.
Until he knows the real you, he cannot possibly love you.
Right. So I find it interesting because she's not saying that Colin will never love her. And she's not even saying that if she reveals it, that Colin will stop loving her. She's saying that how is he going to love you entirely if he doesn't know everything about you? So I find that interesting that Eloise said it.
And I find this reassuring.
Yes.
It's reassuring, I think, for the storyline and for Pen's arc.
I think it also hints how Eloise feels as well, which is she still loves Pen.
Yeah.
She's just disappointed she didn't know these things about her.
Yeah, I think this is also the start of, her turning back towards Penelope. But I was going to say this particular line, I was watching the trailer, I think that also is from another scene because, they start the word possibly as she's speaking, but I don't think it matches her mouth movement. So I'm not sure she says that line in that scene. I think it might be actually from a different scene.
Yeah.
I wonder if that comes like a little earlier, maybe before Cressida claims to be Lady Whistledown.
Yeah.
Maybe either in the post-carriage scene at Bridgerton House or during that engagement ball.
Yeah. In Ep 5 at some point. Yeah, maybe.
Beans, just to touch on what you said there, that was really interesting because, like you say, she isn't doing it out of being vindictive. In fact, none of it is vindictive. Even in Ep 5, even with the deadline, she's not being like, I'm jealous that you're with my brother. It's, you need to tell him so he can make an informed decision. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, Lecky, what you were saying, that this might be the moment where this turns Elle back to Pen.
I think the actual flow of this conversation is, instead of her saying he cannot possibly love you, I think this is, like in the books, this is Eloise taking on the role of saying, why not just let Cressida take the credit? And Penelope is saying Whistledown has power. I think that's how that conversation will flow.
So do you think we've had an inversion from the book where he's like, why can't you just let it go? You've got the perfect opportunity here. Take it.
Yep.
So do you think that they've taken that exact sort of, and it's driven by fear as well, that exact fear, and given that to Eloise, and maybe that this is driving Eloise back into her orbit?
Yeah, that's what I think they've done.
And also, I will say this. I love that conversation is with Eloise and Penelope, because Eloise is so much of women should be allowed to do these things. They should be allowed to have dreams, whatever. And as she's having that conversation with Pen, maybe Eloise will then realize she's being a bit hypocritical.
Yeah, no, it's a good point because it's, in fact, you know what? Like before, we'd even thought that maybe in episode 1, Eloise would be like, Pen, don't you write about my family? Or what Eloise has never done since she found out is tell Pen what to do with Whistledown. It's been like, you do your thing, like maybe try not to hurt people or showing empathy when Pen turns it on herself. But even in episode 5 in the conversation, I mean, obviously we've only seen split seconds really, but she's only ever really advocated that she tells Colin. She's never said stop writing or silence it. Ooh, Lecky, just because this ties in that conversation that Pen and Portia had, what was interesting about Portia when she was telling Pen to give up her dreams?
She's holding a copy of Lady Whistledown, and next to them on the table is a huge stack of issues of Lady Whistledown.
So do you think Portia finds out about Whistledown?
I think so. I mean, I can't imagine why else, unless she's just not very observant, and Portia comes in and Penelope's covered in ink, surrounded by issues of Lady Whistledown, and she's like, ladies need to give up their dreams.
Or she's using it as packing paper.
Yeah, so it's interesting then, isn't it? Because if we assume, again, huge assumption, that Portia knows and has been telling Pen, you have to give up your dreams.
Whispering in her ear.
Whereas you've got Eloise on the other side who is saying, yes, you'll whistle down.
Give up the dream. Yep.
You need to tell him the truth for a start. And then when the threat becomes real, or maybe not, it's not even a threat really at this point. It's an out, isn't it? Is what Cressida gives her. It's a way out from it.
Yeah, I think Portia is telling her, give up the dream. And Eloise is saying the same thing, but she's saying it out of concern for Penelope.
Yeah. Here's your opportunity, which is what Colin does in the book, right? And it feels like for the very same reasons that Pen had in the book, where she just can't let Cressida take credit for it.
Mm-hmm. And it like fuels her.
Yeah, it fuels her. And we saw in the teaser trailer the refutal of it, or at least one of them, because it looks like there might have been more than one, where she says she's a charlatan, she's a fraud, she's absolutely not me, and she can't help but get sucked back into the tussle of it all, which is gonna, be a downfall for her in a few different ways. She's gonna run into Cressida, she's gonna run into Eloise, to the Queen, and then to Colin. And speaking of, obviously the floral ball, we've had a beautiful Polin dance, we've had the Cressida announcement, the dissemination of all of these note cards, Elle and Pen going and having a confrontation or discussion about how to handle it. I wonder if Elle sees Pen heading out and she's like, I know that you're going to go instantly refute this. Don't refute it. And then they have the discussion and then Pen still goes to refute it. And that's when Colin notices her leaving and he follows her because he's clocked her. Maybe. So do you think that at the point that Colin begins to follow her, he knows exactly what's going on and he knows that it's Whistledown? Or is it like he's 90% of the way there, or he like maybe doesn't want to believe it?
Yeah, I think he's pretty much there.
I think he's 90% of the way there and he doesn't want it to be.
Yeah, he doesn't want it to be true.
Yeah, it's the kind of situation where you don't want it to be true, so you haven't really accepted it in your mind yet.
Yeah, and then obviously as he gets closer and closer to discovering her, that's when it becomes real for him. How do you feel about him mostly putting it together? I'm glad, because I feel like him putting it together gives him a sense of agency that otherwise he just doesn't have within the story, of Pen not telling him. If she isn't going to tell him to the point of, they're together, they're planning their marriage, and she's had opportunities, then at least Colin's intelligence gives him a sense of agency.
Yeah, from the trailer, they make it glaringly obvious. We'll see how it actually plays out. I almost wish it'd been a little subtler and he still figured it out, because he's a really clever, perceptive character.
Yeah.
But I am glad that he figured it out. I don't necessarily wish that Penelope had lied to him leading up to him discovering this about her, but yeah.
Yeah, but it's a great day for the one Bridgerton brain cell that they all share, isn't it?
Yes.
It's come back from its time with Daphne and is bouncing around inside his lovely curly head. If this is like a little chase carriage part 2, Lecky, we do have an unconfirmed spoiler, so spoiler warning here, we'll put timestamps and just skip ahead a little bit, about what song might be playing during the Whistledown reveal discovery. Right. And we do have a reason why we think it might be real.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, okay. This may be incorrect, but a fan noticed, they must have been listening to the Pitbull cover a lot.
Many such cases.
And they started going through Archer Marsh's discography, I'm guessing, and listened to some of his other songs. And he has a cover of Demi Lovato's song, and confident. And when you play that song on Spotify, clips from Bridgerton play. And they're clips from part 1. But I'm thinking that this is a song that may appear at some point in part 2. And to me, it 100% has the vibe of the Lady Whistledown discovery. There's this part at the end where there's this very like serious, like done kind of sound to it. And that to me is the moment that Colin sees Penelope in her Lady Whistledown getup. I just have a feeling it is this. And I feel like the confident tone is very Penelope's arrogance as she's going to the printer shop. And then at the very end of the song, there's this very somber
crash of realization almost. Yeah, the come down.
Yes, as Colin discovers who she is.
Well, look, it's not totally out the realms of possibility because we know that there is a Demi Lovato song.
Go listen to the song. There's a moment at the end. You'll know it. It's this very serious, epic sounding moment. And I think that's the moment that Colin figures out that she's Lady Whistledown.
Spoilers.
So we think the Whistledown reveal is going to come at the end of episode 6. Lecky, we had a little tussle earlier because in the trailer, and I'm very excited to see what Veg and Beans think. In the trailer, there is this moment that I'm sure everyone has watched about 50,000 fucking times.
Or 2.
or 2. If you've been busy like some of us, maybe you've just seen it twice. But there is a moment where we've got Pen in a dress, which Lecky's going to touch on in a minute, but in her Whistledown cape. Colin, they're outside in the street, where Penelope says, Colin, I can take care of myself. And Colin has this outburst where he says, then what good am I to you?
Heartbreaking.
And the two of them kiss. Now, I just thought that this was the Whistledown reveal, but Lecky thinks it's a different situation, which we'll come to later. Thoughts? Is this not from the Whistledown reveal?
Yeah, but it is. And to be honest, I've been so busy that I've just tried not to trouble myself too much with it because I can't make head or tail of it. Because if it is, then like if they kiss, that mean he's over it, like when he discovers it. But then later on, he looks kind of angry and sad. But then maybe that's when he's figured it out already and this... I don't know, you guys are smarter than me. You can tell me what it means.
Veg, what I think we're going to posit is that there are 2 big arguments with Pen and Colin. So in the timeline, we have probably at the end of episode 6. So Colin discovers that Pen is Lady Whistledown, right? That is obviously the big build-up that we've been waiting for the whole time. Now, if that happens at the beginning of episode 7, where we see his immediate reaction, we know he's going to have a bad reaction. Luke has said that before. If they're going to be married by the end of episode 7, joining of hands, as Lecky pointed out last episode, then he has to kind of genuinely get over it. Not get over it completely, but he has to come to terms with it.
Get over it, Colin.
Get over it, babe. It's not that big a deal.
Interesting.
You tell your relationship's built on a lie, but...
Well...
It's not, but you know what I mean. Then he kind of does have to get to grips with it relatively quickly. Whereas we think, Veg, and we'll come to it in a little bit, we think that there is another argument that actually comes from the books that we've talked about before when we read the books, where Pen is going to publish again without him knowing, or she does something without behind his back.
Or against his wishes.
And that's what the second argument, the second confrontation, once they've been married, because the Whistledown reveal is pre-marriage, and that heartbreaking moment of Colin on his sofa is presumably post-marriage. But we will get there. So what do you think? Do you think that this moment where Pen is basically saying, I can take care of myself, and he's like, then what good am I to you? Do you think that's Whistledown, or do you think that's later?
I think it's later. Okay, I have several thoughts. First of all, I don't think joining of hands is marriage. I think joining of hands is Eloise and Penelope coming back together.
Ooh.
I think we're getting marriage in episode 8. I think the second argument is them sucking each other's faces off, because Luke Newton even says that he's the one who's most affected by it, so I don't think he's going to be over it in episode 7, if that's what we're assuming that's where the reveal is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think they're going to have another argument after that.
After they're married, yeah.
And then they make up, and then they are like, oh, we love you, I love you.
They had the mandatory 5 minutes of happiness at the end of episode 8.
Yeah.
I still think the wedding will be in 7, and the joining of hands will probably just, like you've speculated in the past, like kind of play it into multiple subplots of people kind of coming back together. But for the Lady Whistledown reveal, I do think that argument is from their second kind of Lady Whistledown confrontation. And part of the reason, in retrospect, after our conversation, I was thinking about that interview that Luke just did, where he said something about Colin, he kind of gets swept swept up in the drama about Lady Whistledown, and he makes it worse somehow.
Yeah.
And I feel like this conversation may be pertaining to whatever he does that kind of makes the situation worse. And she's like, I can take care of myself. And he's like, then what good am I to you? Also, super heartbreaking thought for Colin, where obviously she just needs you.
I know.
Yeah, so let's look at what they say for a second then, because regardless of if this is the first argument or the second argument, the sentiment is incredibly pertinent throughout. So Penelope says, Colin, I can take care of myself. And his reply is, then what good am I to you? So let's take Penn's first. And we've seen it before and you can understand where she's coming from. She's so self-reliant because she's had to be throughout her whole life. She's ultimately had to look out for herself because she has been put by the wayside by so many people in her life, including her parents. And so she's had to learn to take care of herself. And part of her journey is allowing someone in, and this is the grappling with Whistledown, is that she has to learn to let someone else in, and I think they have to compromise because
they need to become partners, equal partners.
Exactly, because it's easy to be like, Colin values being the hero far too much and he needs to learn to completely let go. I don't think he does need to learn to completely let go. I think she needs to learn to trust other people and rely on other people, and he needs to learn that you don't have to fully save someone, you can support someone. And that by her pulling this way and him pulling that, they meet perfectly in the middle of, we're a team and we're in this together and we can rely on one another, but also trust one another's judgment as well. But Colin says, then what good am I to you? And it's so heartbreaking because we've seen this, haven't we? From like day one with him, is that he thinks he has to have some purpose, some use to have value. And we saw Violet say, you always put everyone else first, you always try to be helpful. It's something that Luke has talked back as really going back to Edmund's death, when he was so young but old enough to know what was going on, that he really didn't know how to cope with it and how to be useful, because he wasn't old enough to be helpful, but he wasn't young enough to be lost in ignorance of the situation.
Yeah.
He didn't really know what to do, and that's what he's always grappled with. And it reminds me of the purpose scene as well, where she was listing all these amazing things and he was so in awe, and he says, what could possibly measure up to all that? And the answer is, a life with you can measure up to that, but he doesn't know that's true just by being him. And it is perfectly encapsulating what they both need to do, isn't it? It's like, I can take care of myself, but Penn, you need to learn that you don't have to shoulder everything. You don't have to be alone. And Colin needs to learn that you don't have to be anything other than yourself to be worthy of love and to be worthy of meaning something to someone.
It's so interesting.
He's so heartbreaking as well, the way he delivers it. Now, if we're going to get a lot of angst in part 2, then at least it's going to be delivered by Luke Newton's acting.
Yeah.
It's something to look forward to, all the Polin pain. Lecky, regardless of which argument this is, there is something about her clothing that you've been doing a bit of a deep dive into.
Okay, well, this is part of the reason why I think they're two separate scenes, is that the first shot of her in the carriage or whatever, I feel like that's her on the way from the floral ball where she's riding in the carriage. She hasn't had much time to think about it, as opposed to later on. I feel like later on there'll be the drama with Cressida where she decides to write again. It looks like in the trailer she has much more time to think about that. We see her sitting at her desk in her new bedroom thinking about writing that issue, where this one is kind of like more in the moment. And then when we see them having that argument, she's wearing the same jewelry and her hair is styled similarly as we saw in that one behind the scenes shot of her in the Lady Whistledown cape with her engagement ring. And she seems to be wearing a dress that she wears in what we think is episode 6.
The ink stains.
The ink stain dress. So I feel like Ob's had this idea that she re-wears that later in the season when she kind of goes against Colin's wishes and writes again as kind of like a visual tie-in of her deception, of her betrayal, to remind us of that.
Yeah.
Because it is the same dress in this argument moment that she wears in the ink stains moment, but her hair is completely different, her jewelry is completely different, and we were like, is this the same day? Is this what she's been writing and publishing? But it didn't make sense. But yeah, I like the idea that moment where Colin starts picking up and her secret comes back later when he discovers her, because they've done that before with Colin's wardrobe when he re-wore the remarkable shade of blue outfit during the scene in episode 4 when he was thinking about that day.
Also in the trailer, it seems like they're using her clothing to kind of remind us about her deception as well, because in the scene where she's promenading with Portia, she has this shawl that kind of has this yellow coloring to it. Just a little hint of her deception, that she's keeping something from Colin.
Because they've always said that yellow has been used for deception, which we're gonna see in their house. So how lovely once we get there. But obviously as well, they have a very beautiful kiss that is just stunning shot, and it really harkens back to the fact that no matter how divided they are in these moments of conflict, they are still in love, and like that doesn't change.
They still wanna know.
Do we think this is the new girl kiss that they alluded to?
Oh,
Yeah, I think so.
I have seen that kiss before, though.
As a reference point for Nicola, great kiss. Okay, so regardless, we know the Whistledown conflict is going to come. So he finds out she's Whistledown. He's upset about it. There's some kind of divide between the two of them. How on earth do we possibly reconcile in time to go to a wedding? Well, there's only one way that I know. Come on, let's crawl. Gotta crawl to the ugly bugs ball. We're off to the bug ball, guys. Did you ever think we would have a literal ball for bugs? No, but sometimes life chooses a path that you walk instead of you. And maybe it's like the butterfly ball, but we're going with bugs because that's what Harry Keynes and Luke Thompson both said was a spoiler for part 2.
I'm glad that in some ways I was right. Doubling isn't there, but we do see bugs.
Yeah.
You know what? We always said taxidermy and bugs, and there was taxidermy at the Stowell house, and there's bloody bugs here. So, you know, we weren't wrong. Maybe we didn't know there were penguins involved. We didn't know that he was going to go become an iceberg in the north-south fucking cold water, wherever he is. The bugs are here. There is a bug ball that we first saw in some behind-the-scenes footage, but it looks definitely to be a Featherington baseball in very dramatic scenery, because who's there releasing a shit ton of butterflies?
Barley. She got done chopping up the potatoes, rushes out to release the butterflies on cue.
She looks fucking thrilled. She is having the best time. I just really want it to be like a really nice idea that ends up... I don't know how much carnage butterflies can cause, but I'm here for it to be just absolute chaos as all these butterflies explode.
Explode?
Hopefully not.
That would be very messy.
God, that'd be tragic, wouldn't it? Penny dreams of dying, smash butterflies everywhere.
That reminds me of a Bob's Burgers episode where basically this couple met at Bob's Burgers and they asked him to cater the wedding and everything goes wrong. And they asked everyone to release their butterflies and all of the butterflies are dead. So they throw them up into the air and they all just fall.
Just like sadly flutter.
Yep.
Well, the Featheringtons roll, so it's going to have to be chaotic. Are we thinking that the bug ball fall, again, we don't know, we're just making shit up at this point. Let's say that the bug ball falls between when Penn and Colin are a little bit, maybe not estranged, because I think they still both know they're going to get married, but they're struggling. After the Whistledown reveal, when Colin's still grappling, but before their wedding, it's like this is the moment that they reconcile, because beyond the butterflies going everywhere, we have Penn, very interestingly, in this red lipstick that I don't think we've ever seen her wear, but is tying into the moment with Cressida, who was in, you know, the literal Scarlet Letter. But at the ball, they have a moment where she turns to him, he looks at her, and they have this really sad moment together. Do you think this is the point of reconciliation for them?
Yeah.
Or at least this is going to prompt their reconciliation?
I don't want them to unconcile.
You don't want them to reconcile? Babe, we've been in this for too long.
No, I don't want them to unconcile in the first place.
Oh my God. I was going to be like, we've been in this too long for you to not want them to get together. Can't be doing that, babe.
I've changed my mind.
It kind of makes sense to me that they would reconcile here, tying into the theme of the ball of, you know, Penelope emerging from her chrysalis and, you know, finally being the butterfly she was always meant to be, that Colin would choose to accept her at that ball and accept the Lady Whistledown of her. Yeah. That would make sense to me.
Are we assuming this is at the Featherington estate in London? Because that's exactly where it all went to shit last year. So it's a nice tie-in of him accepting and embracing, really committing to it. But Beans, let's just assume that all's well for 5 minutes. Can we have some wedding bells, please? It is time to finally go to the Polin wedding. Seeing as though we couldn't be bothered to take you there in Block 4 Part 2, we had every intention. We were working on it. We were going to release the episode and then this happened. We'll probably release that episode at some point, but it's mostly redundant now. But just know that we did know there was a Polin wedding. We were going to tell you all about it, but the trailer just decided to do it instead because we are definitely at the Polin wedding.
I'm shocked they showed so much of this wedding.
Oh God, the amount of stress about this dress that we've had.
You know what I'm just realizing? I've only seen the teaser trailer. I haven't seen the trailer.
Are you joking me?
No. Like, you guys are talking about these scenes and I'm like, where the fuck did this come from? No.
Are you joking me? Right, for fuck's sake.
You mean the one we got 3 weeks ago?
Do you have time to watch it? No, you're on your phone.
Oh my God.
Okay. You know what? What we're going to do, guys? It's been a busy week. We're going to just power through. We're going to tell Beans what's happening. I'm going to send visual aids and...
We're almost done.
And then she's going to watch it after the fact. Look, she did a book reread and she hadn't read the books. So she was fine. Okay, Beans, exciting news for you. All of these moments that Beans just has had no idea about. She's going to be fucking thrilled to see it all. She's got a vivid imagination. Okay, Beans, we get some clips of the Polin wedding.
Ding, ding, ding.
So we have a few different moments. We have a gorgeous Kate and Anthony inside the church, gazing lovingly at one another. Again, those of you who are really grasping onto every single scrap of Lady Danbury, Penelope bonding, Lady Danbury is looking towards the chapel.
She's seated for the event.
She's at the wedding. You got to take what you can get in this life. She's looking straight ahead. We assume that Pen might be in her.
She put on her best hat.
She looks incredible.
She's probably blocking the view of 5 other people behind her with her hat. She's very excited.
She gives not a single shit.
Wow. I didn't see any of this.
My God, right. So, Beans, you'll see that there is a clip of Fran, and I can't believe we've just been recording for an hour and a half and she didn't fucking watch the trailer. You've been so enthusiastic.
You know what's exciting about this shot of Fran and John dancing is the background is Clayton House. We were wondering when it would pop up. It is Clayton House is the venue of their post-wedding ball.
How cute.
Reception. So we have a tiny glimpse inside the church in terms of Kate and Anthony and Lady Danbury being sat. But the most that we see for the wedding is at their wedding reception. Like you say, Lecky, Clayton House, we've mentioned it before, very Featherington themed. And it looks like we go there for the wedding reception. Now, there is this shot of Fran. We love them. You know how we love Fran. Pray silence. Welcome to What a Fran. A Fran podcast brought to you by 4 Frans who would never have been Frans without Fran. Welcome to Fran. Now, interesting thing about John there is that he is part of the wedding party because he has the little groomsman, boutonnier, whatever you call it. But I don't know if they're married at this point, so they're definitely at least engaged if he's part of the wedding party.
I went through frame by frame to see if I could see her hand, and I couldn't see if she was even engaged by this point.
She's tried for you.
Yeah, but what was hilarious to me is that the 2 redheads and the bright green jackets on the left side of the frame. We've told you there's a shit ton of Featherington redhead extras at the wedding.
Yeah.
And it looks like there's 2 of them in the corner of the shot.
Yay!
Yeah, they're just filling it with redheads. I'd be right at home.
Are they just wigs or did they source redheads?
And they sourced red.
They may have sourced redheads.
As if we're like a meat source. There's not many of us out there, to be fair.
Yeah, it could have been Eops.
So we have this shot of Fran dancing at the Polin wedding. Do we or do we not think that they intended to have Pen in a wedding dress in the background?
I think they intended to do it, but I don't understand why they did it.
Yeah.
Now, listeners, you won't know about this because we haven't released the fucking episode, but the amount of lore, the amount of controversy around Pen's wedding dress, you would not believe. Someone said they'd seen it and had photos, they were going to release it and they never did, but they were teasing it. The back and forth we've had over this bloody wedding dress. I saw Nicola leave the church, not in a wedding dress, but her hair was really curly. The discourse has been going on for a year now. And the fact that they've just included Pen in a wedding dress just in the back of a shot is just...
It's par for the course, isn't it?
I think it really sums up a lot. Like, she's blurry. And isn't that true? Isn't that right that the first time we see Pen in a wedding dress, she's a blur in the background, been spun around?
That's very fitting.
Oh, look, Finch is smiling at her.
Yeah, he is smiling.
Yeah, good old Finch.
He fucking loves it. Do we like her blurry wedding dress?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
cute.
she looks beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
She does. Her hair's very curly at the front because there is another shot of the 2 of them dancing, highly close up. You know what? I did always tell you it was very, very curly, didn't I?
Yeah, that's what you saw then.
I'm not going to lie to you. That's what I saw with my eyes. And there Colin is in his little wedding outfit, as we also saw but haven't told you about properly. Polin wedding confirmed. Do we think, very quickly, do we think they're going to have a happy wedding? Do you think they're going to be fully resolved by the wedding before something else kicks off?
No.
Or do you think there's going to be drama at the wedding?
Yes.
I think it will be a happy wedding and that the drama will become post-marriage. And I think that the trailer's kind of misleading in that they include 2 shots where they're not smiling at each other. And I bet there are moments where they do smile at each other while they're dancing because it's their wedding day and they are in love.
They're blissfully happy. I wonder if Colin's like come to terms with her being whistled down, but maybe like in the books, they're like, this is the last edition. That's all good. We're drawing a line under it. Let's start our new life together and move on. And Pen, for whatever reason, still isn't going along with it because we have the Queen, for a start, interspersed in the trailer. And Lecky, what's the Queen doing in the trailer?
The Queen is reacting, I think, to an issue of Lady Whistledown. I think this is when Penelope refutes Cressida's claim that she's Lady Whistledown. I think that she is kind of excited that the game is continuing, that she hasn't yet caught Lady Whistledown.
That's still rumbling on as Polin are getting married and having the beginnings of their happily ever after. There is still the unresolved tension, either through the Queen or Cressida or all of it. Maybe blackmail, maybe it's just ramping up.
We see the shot of Penelope, at her writing desk.
Yeah, we have married Polin, which is very book Polin, isn't it? Because a lot of the book, they're actually married and it's about their married life and them grasping with different issues like her writing, his writing, everything like that. Didn't know it was going to be quite like this though, did we? Because let's get into it. I separated all of these stills into folders and I just called this folder Depressing Polin because it is the most depressing images my brain could have conjured up. Firstly, we have married Penelope writing at a desk in their room. First thing I want to say is, she looks amazing. She's in lilac, covered in first love, married Pen, but their bedroom is fucking unhinged. If you look, for a start, you can see, hang on, Beans, let me send you the visual aid, seeing as though this is brand new information to you, my love. It's a bit blurry, as you'd expect. I can't believe you, Beans. I love you. Okay, so this is definitely the Bloomsbury house or whatever Bloomsbury ends up being called. Can you see the images? Yeah. It's Pen writing at her desk or their desk. Doesn't she look incredible for a start?
Pretty good.
If you look in the background, they're in the bedroom. You can see that their bed sheets are yellow. So clearly when Colin was packing up to move out, he was like, those yellow sheets are coming with me.
There's a song by Matchbox 20 called Bed of Lies. I will not sleep in this bed of lies. Here we go. Sorry.
No. Well, quite, because, okay, we have the implication that firstly, he's brought his yellow sheets. She's never escaping the colour, is she? Let's be real.
He's fond of them.
The second unhinged part of this is look at how that mirror is set up.
Massive mirror facing the bed.
That mirror is awfully close to that bed.
It also looks huge in the frame compared to like Penelope.
Yeah. So, Colin, putting your furniture to very good use, as we know. But what I really love about the way that this is shot is that Pen is sat and she looks really determined and really confident and really self-possessed as she's writing. And you have this amazing frame where it spins around and she has her back turned on their marriage bed. She's also avoiding looking at herself in the mirror. In part one, she was often writing and she was often looking directly at the mirror in her bedroom, sort of confronting and grappling her identity and her steps forward and everything like that. But here, she has turned her back on her marriage bed, turned her back on confronting the reality of what she's doing. And like you say, Lecky, they use yellow as deception. And do you feel like this is a way to be like she is going against them, not against their marriage by any stretch, but do you think that they're starting their married life with Colin, very similar to the books where Colin thinks they're on one page together. This is what we're doing. This is kind of where we are with Whistledown. We're in this together. We've made these decisions together. And she, for whatever reason, presumably because she's been provoked by Cressida or by the Queen, writes another issue without telling him and goes against what they decided together or what Colin believes they decided together.
Yep, I think that's what happened. And this leads to that second Lady Whistledown confrontation.
The second argument, which is very book related because it's the moment at their engagement ball, isn't it, where the Whistledown issue is shared and he is so upset because he's like, you said you weren't going to write. And in her defense, she's like, I never said I wasn't going to write. You've assumed that. But he's so upset because he thinks it's them against the world and she's cut him out because he's like, do you not trust me? Why do you think you have to be lonely? I can definitely see why you think the confrontation is that one. It would make sense.
And also, I can't remember the exact quote, but he said he worsens the situation somehow because he gets too into the drama of it all. And I wonder if it's because he's trying to play hero and he makes some decision that maybe makes the situation worse and maybe even prompts Penelope to write something in the first place.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because she says, I think at the interview with Luke, he said something like, what he doesn't like about Colin is that he does like the gossip. And I think he says that Pen brought some gossip into him and he was like thrilled. He was like, I fucking love trading barbers with Pen. It's like my favourite pastime. And he got way too into it and made it worse. Maybe it's something about like Lady Tilly and Ben or something like that. And it's similar to Pen and Eloise where she didn't let Eloise be part of it because Eloise would have sort of got involved too much and sort of led it astray. Maybe that's one of the reasons she cuts him out or he thinks she's cutting him out. So let's say she publishes something without telling him or he again follows her and finds out that she's going to publish something. This is going to cause a huge second fight. I wonder if this is a second fight where Luke was... We always assumed that when he said that he had this emotional scene where he cried, that was the Whistledown reveal. But do we think it's this deep betrayal where he thought everything was out in the open and once again she's undercut him?
I think it'll be the first one.
He's got tears in his eyes, right?
I think he's just emotional, but yeah.
Oh, Beans, you haven't seen this then. Hang on, you haven't seen the most depressing image. Are you ready for this, Beans?
Maybe.
Look how fucking depressing this is, babe.
Oh my god, I have seen none of this.
Oh my god, I can't believe it. Lecky, what are we looking at?
Okay, we're looking at a picture of Colin sitting on the sofa that he's obviously been sleeping on, sadly holding a cup of tea, looking like he perhaps has recently cried.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt. Ops put this picture of Colin looking at tea in the chat, and I just thought it was a still. I just thought it was a new still. All right, continue, Lucky. I'm sorry.
I have a gif of Colin from season 2 when he goes to see Marina, and he awkwardly sets down his cup of tea and just looks kind of sad. And I always thought that was maybe one of the saddest Collins until I saw him holding a cup of tea in this scene, also sitting on a sofa. Well done, season 3. Thank you.
I don't think I've ever seen anything as sad in my life. What we have is what we assume to be married Polin in their home in Bloomsbury. Beans, because you're seeing this for the first time, if you look at Colin, you can see that it looks like he's slept on the sofa because there's like a bed pillow there. Also, is that her shawl?
It's not. Earlier in the trailer, there is a blanket on the sofa that looks just like that has the same... It's blue, like a blue blanket with kind of like yellow trim to it. It's the same blanket.
Oh, God. It looks like they've had such a big fight that he can't even sleep in the same bed as her. I'm sorry, but in all the fucking dark eventualities.
We talked about in season 1, we didn't want a lot of drama post-marriage, and that's one of the reasons we didn't quite like season 1 as much, is that they don't really have a happy marriage. But the trailer, I feel like, is trying to kind of blow this all out of proportion, so it might not be as bad as it kind of seems in the trailer. There's clearly so much love between Penelope and Colin, but they're both like hurting at this time, which means that we're hurting for them. And obviously, I know you love angst, but I just want them to be happy together, and we'll get there eventually. But seeing this was so sad.
You know how much we love Colin, and this is just gut-wrenching.
The one redeeming factor for me in this scene is that he's still very in tune to Penelope. When she opens the door behind him, he's obviously intently listening. And somebody on the subreddit pointed out that maybe he's sleeping on the couch instead of a separate bedroom because it's still at least close to her. Someone else also said that maybe this is an attached living room and they didn't want to alert the servants that something was wrong.
Oh, it's so depressing.
But I like the idea better that he just wanted to be close to her, because even though they're kind of have this argument or whatever, that, you know, eventually they'll work through it. But
he doesn't want to leave her.
Very, very heartbreaking.
So Beans, obviously, having not seen the fucking trailer, you won't know actually that what happens here is, as you can see, he's there with his cup of tea and he just turns ever so slightly because Penelope opens the door, sort of looks at him and then looks down, and it's clear that they are, to quote season 1, oceans apart. Also, like, I wonder if it's almost like a Finch thing. Do you know what we were talking earlier about? Like, Mr. Finch didn't impose on Philippa because he was like, you know, I don't know if you want me to impose on you in this way. I wonder if it's maybe Colin he's not doing it out of like vindictive, I'm not going to sleep in the same bed as you because I'm so angry at you. Maybe he's just like, I don't want to impose myself in the same room if we've had this huge fight and I don't really know what to do, but I'm going to sleep near to you, but it's just...
I'll be honest, Obs, that doesn't sound like the kind of thing. That sounds a bit too nuanced.
You're trying to say that maybe he wants to give her space? I feel like he may want some space here.
I think he wants space.
Yeah. Sorry.
But I like that he's still kind of close to her because he's on the sofa that's adjacent to their bedroom. And he's obviously listening for her. There's still, I think, a part of him that, you know, cares about her.
Oh my God. There's been so many role reversals recently with how they've played up parts in the book. What if Penelope is the one who's like, stay. I want you to stay.
Oh, that would be heartbreaking.
Oh my God, that would be sweet.
Would it be sweet?
Well, no, it wouldn't be. We're in the apocalypse, babe. We're in the apocalypse. Is what we're in.
To me, it would be more meaningful if after Penelope has treated Colin like this, if he still says stay because he doesn't want her to remove herself from his life.
Oh, maybe. I think I was thinking of it as like everything's been resolved, but they're still a little bit awkward. And then Penelope goes, "Can you stay? Oh, can you stay?
Can you stay?"
That would work for me if Colin was tentative and didn't know, kind of like Finch, didn't know if she wanted him back in their bedroom. But I feel like here he has removed himself because he is not feeling like their partnership.
Oh, buddy, old pal.
So they need to resolve that.
What if he tells her to stay and then they fuck on the couch? Ooh.
I mean,
very likely.
Yeah.
But again, it is the book thing of like, he was incredibly angry and then it all dissipated because he realized he loved her and he wanted her to be there. I wonder if, like you say, Beans, it is like a pen moment where she's like, stay, because it's not that he's going to leave her, because obviously he's never going to leave her, but and he's got that ring on his finger now, but it's like, oh, bless them.
That would be heartbreaking for her to beg.
No, but do you know when there's a rift between two people and it's like you have the choice to like keep it further, or someone has to be the one to sort of like reach out
to breach it? Yeah. I hope that Penelope would make a different gesture and that it would be Colin showing that he's overcome that by saying something like stay. But it would be nice for Penelope to reach out to him in another way.
Yeah.
But maybe not stay, in my opinion.
Maybe she'll just be like, all right, well, I guess I'll go to bed. And he's like, stay here on the couch with me.
The mirror is looking awfully cold in here.
Enticing you back in. It's absolutely soul destroying.
Yeah.
And you know what? This is the last still. This is kind of it. So we're leaving with Colin sleeping on the sofa. Also, just want to say about the sofa, how sweet that it's yellow and blue. You know, you take the tiny things in life.
Yeah, even the blanket that he kept him warm overnight on the sofa, I think is also blue and yellow. But I will say, outside of this trailer, because we didn't get to Block 4 Part 2 yet, is that there is a shot at some point of Happy Polin outside with the Bridgerton scene off Fran and John, who are by that point married.
Yes, yeah.
We know that Happy Polin are on the horizon.
So at some point they overcome him sleeping on the couch, being heartbroken, and are a united couple.
Oh my God, how depressing. One of our listeners messaged us and was like, the cravat is back on. And that's when you know things. He's like, you're not having access to this neck anymore.
Oh no. Good point.
But it is, he's closed off again, right?
Yeah.
His hair is super, super tidy. You know, this is not Pirate Colin by any stretch, is it? With, you know, his facade of not giving a shit what people say to him.
Yeah.
This is a man who's been broken.
The swag is gone.
And yet she's wearing that really soft Bridgerton blue color. So I feel like she's just desperately trying to fix it.
Oh, police. Let's just end the suffering.
Now, I will say, we're going to save the discussion of episode 8 and how we think the whistle down will be resolved. We'll save that for Block 4 Part 2, which will come to you before the season does.
It may be very truncated. We didn't have as much material as we thought. A lot of it's wrong and outdated now. But at some point, we'll try to get to that to you somehow.
Lecky and I will get in the lab. We'll try and put something together for you in terms of like just our theories about the episode 8 resolution. And because we're not going to cover that now in terms of the Queen and everything like that and how we end up with that beautiful, happy pixelated Polin. Even if we just upload it as an audio file to a OneDrive and just get you all to listen to the dodgy audio.
Okay, to really heighten the deal for you listeners, I'll make a lemon cake and we'll put the instructions in between for the block.
Yeah, because it's going to be such a pointless episode now.
Yeah.
Lemon for deception. A bitter lemon cake for the bitter feelings we'll have watching part 2.
Okay, so to finish up, because this is so dire, I cannot leave this episode on Colin sitting. It's just, I couldn't have thought of a more depressing image.
No, you want to know a more depressing image? That ended up being perfectly ominous for this trailer that I didn't watch, apparently.
Go for it.
Those 3 porta potties that fell on their sides. That was a more depressing image.
That was, yeah.
It was a portent of Polin Doom is what it was. I just want you all to very quickly before we end the call. So I don't want to know about how it's all going to get resolved with the Queen and Whistledown. How do we think they get out of this moment here where he can't even sleep in the same bed as her? How do you think we move past this? What has to break? What has to be said? How are we going to get them slightly back on the same page? Because if this is happening, episode 7, episode 8, we really don't have much runtime to piece them all back together and have the, you know, the 2 minutes of Polin against the world that we need to have.
Yeah.
Any thoughts how we can move past this?
They have to become partners and deal with the situation together, for one. So I feel like that will be a situation with the Queen, because she's like, you know, the bigger threat.
The bigger, yeah.
In the long run.
Do you think they just need a conversation where, I mean, how do they resolve it in the book? Oh, they just sleep together for the first time. We've already done that. Maybe they just do that.
It has to be a moment where if Penelope she's making these decisions by herself, there has to be a point where she consults Colin when she's making a decision and they're a united front. And also that would be growth for him if he lets her kind of choose her own path, but supports her, but he's there with her.
Yeah, they have to be together.
I think I can't remember if we said this in Block 4 or one of our other episodes, but I said I thought that he might even accompany her to go see the Queen. Something like that, where they're a united front.
We'll come to that because I used to think something different and now I see where you're coming from with that as him needing to go, or at least needing to let her go. I think so much of season 3 has been about Colin because he's the Bridgerton at play, that it's him dealing with society's expectations and his own vulnerabilities and him thinking that his only worth comes from his utility in life and his place in life. And the way they get past this is by them having a conversation where she explains what she's done. He listens to her, but he also learns that, he doesn't have to save someone to be loved, and that isn't kind of where his value is in life as a husband.
And in turn, Penelope consults somebody instead of making a rash decision by herself.
Yeah.
And she also lets him kind of weigh in on her actions and her plan because she's not alone anymore. She has a partner in life.
My thoughts are these.
Yeah.
They both need to confront their insecurities individually before they can come together fully. And so that's going to be the thing, I think, that ultimately is what brings them back together, is this moment where maybe they both apologize. I'm sorry for this. I'm sorry for this, these things. And they're like, no, you shouldn't. But they're both like, no, I should. There's like a resolve there where it's like, these are the things that I've done. And I love that you have, there's a bird stuck in the wind. I love that.
Also not a great sign.
Excuse me, what? It's stuck in the wind.
It's so windy today.
Like it can't flap its little wings. Oh my God.
It's Polin trying to escape the drama in their marriage.
Oh God.
Oh my God, it's free. It's free.
It's like having a conversation with Debbling, isn't it? Fucking hell.
It's free, guys. It turned around.
Yay!
It's going with the current.
God.
It was stuck in the wind. It was crazy.
It's great. Oh my God.
That being said, listeners, we hope you're looking forward to part 2. And
Yeah, as much as we are.
keep listening.
Yeah.
Do you know what hasn't even been a part of this? Colin's writing. He's going to be insecure about his writing. So that's all going to bloody come in.
Yeah.
We're all feeling like birds stuck in the wind.
I have a happy note to end on.
Oh, do you?
Well, the bird was free.
Yeah, birds free.
Veg, what's your happy note?
I just wanted to say I was really happy to see Jess Madison's post. She's posted saying, I'm in love with a woman, which I thought was very nice. And I just wanted to wish all our listeners Happy Pride Month.
Happy Pride, everyone.
Happy Pride.
All these past 4 days, I don't know if you guys have seen that TikTok, but RIP to this queen. She passed away. She has a song that goes,
Yeah.
Be who you are for your pride. I've been singing it to my cat for the past 4 days, and she's like, can you shut the fuck up?
Aww. But Biscuit is an ally.
I'm an ally and part of the community, girls. So happy Pride to us, babes.
Happy Pride. Yeah, what a beautiful way to end it. It's all about love at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah.
So happy Pride, happy June. It's going to be a huge month. We've got, a few days till part 3? Part 3? I can't do part 3, fucking hell.
God.
So part 2 drops. I know, I'm sorry if we've been a little bit down in the dumps this episode. We're doing it with the trademark Polin dark humour, as we do with everything. We'll be back at some point with our promised Block 4 part 2. We swear to you, we're going to get something out to you.
Yep.
Even if it's just Lecky crying on a voice note and just offering a couple of predictions for you. We'll get something to you.
You guys are going to love my lemon cake.
It's gonna be astonishing. It's gonna be remarkable.
Bitter lemon cake, like Colin's bitter tears.
It's gonna be sturdy. It's gonna be a beauty. So stay tuned for that. All will be well. We're promised a happy ending. We're promised 5 minutes of happiness and a little epilogue. So that's all to look forward to. In the meantime, as Colin tragically sits on his little sofa with his sweet little teacup, where can everyone find us?
You can find us at What a Barb Pod on Instagram and TikTok. Or TikTok, as Ops wrote in our notes.
Stop it. I just get so confused.
It's fine.
We're tired. And if you're listening to us on one of your favourite podcast platforms, then hop on over to YouTube and see Beans' beautiful collages. And if you're watching on YouTube, Well, you can catch up with us when you're doing your weekly 5K run or whatever on all of your favourite podcast platforms.
Or sitting your ass down and playing some solitaire like I do.
We also have a listener who listens to us like in the bath, like a candlelit bath.
Yeah.
That is also completely fine.
How romantic.
Bathroom has great acoustics. Enjoy.
This is for you. This is for you in your bath. Those suds look so good. Are you rubbing your body well?
Do you know what else you can find on YouTube?
Is it bath ASMR?
Tantalizing you as we whisper into your ears.
Your conditioner looks so luxurious.
So to that one listener that we've now lost, I hope you have a great life without us. Do you know what else you can find on YouTube, though, Beans?
Oh, the trailer. Yeah, I'll go watch it, probably.
Yay!
Can't believe we got an hour and a half in before you realised you hadn't seen the thing we were talking about.
God.
So, Beans, I don't know what you've got cooked up for us, but can you sing us out?
Oh, sure. This is just off the top of my head. It doesn't pertain to anything, but I can be your hero, baby. I can kiss the pain away.
Is it I can kiss the pain away? I can take away your pain,
Yeah,
I think. Maybe. Something. It's fine. We're good.
You and me
Yay!
are complete. I don't know the fucking lyrics. I just know the hero part.
You can take my breath away.
Hero Colin, this one's for you. Stay strong, babe. We love you.
Ding, ding, ding.
A Polin podcast. Das violin. Do 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 do.
A Polin podcast.